Thursday, August 11th, 2022, time is 11 a.m. Special meeting agenda. This is our, I guess, bi-weekly human resource meeting to consider personnel change. Once again, Thursday, August 11th, 2022, special meeting agenda to consider human resource personnel changes. Attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do you have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to add an emergency executive session 1B, and the emergency is there's changes that are scheduled to be made to payroll, and we pulled them from Tuesday's business meeting. We've got to address those so they can get back on next Tuesday's business meeting to be approved.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Do we need a second?
Well, yeah, but I'm looking at.
Guys, do
is
we need a
that-
second for that?
Okay.
Okay, I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Filios.
Aye. Okay, so the agenda is amended to add an executive session 1B. Okay, before we start, and I rarely do this, but I have to do it, we cannot increase the budget at this time. Somehow the new buzzwords are parity and compression. Guess what? I'm not approving any going forward. We have frozen the budget. The increases are aggressive. If you can't hire, bear in mind that the matrix is moving, the grades are moving coming fiscal 23, so it should make it easier. We simply cannot increase the budget at this time. Because it's going to be published anytime soon. It has to be published twice ahead of the August 30th meeting. And so I know I've heard the arguments. I hear them over and over again. But at this point, we've put our best foot forward, and we're going to have to, in my mind, I'm going to have to keep it frozen. I'm speaking for myself. We can go through the different requests, but for me, it's probably going to be almost a no on every one. So I'm just telling you that up front. I'm taking a hard line, because we have done the very best we can, and we're not going to increase the budget at this time.
Chris, I would like to say the same thing. I've been hearing a lot about parity and compression, and I don't want to hear it anymore until after we get the budget published. And we're well on our way into next fiscal year, because every time anybody wants anything now, the two little buttons are parity and compression. So the answer is no to those for me.
Leslie?
Yes, however, I think today it would have been nice to let these people know before they got everything on the agenda. So that's what Sylvia and I were going to come forward with as changes to the policy to say, if you hire somebody and it creates parity or a compression issue, that's on you, and we're not going to increase everybody else's wages. So that's after the first of the fiscal year, because what happens is you have a choice to hire them lower at a lower step to not cause parity and compression. So I think that recently, before the wage increases take place, we've had those situations that were legitimate because we could not hire people. So we're getting these people, we're trying to hire them as quickly as possible. They have the experience. And so that's why I think that we've dealt with a lot of this parity stuff. So, I think we owe it to the people who have stuff on the agenda. They did not know that this was going to be a stance. And I don't disagree with the stance, but I think there's some things that we still need to address. And I guess you put a line in the sand. So from today on forward, if you hire somebody and it causes parity in your organization, you're going to have to live with it. So that's.
Or compression.
So that's.
Nancy, did you want to say anything? Okay. Where do you want to go from here? For me.
Item one. Oh,
I'm sorry?
item one.
Item one. I mean, I've stated my position, but if you want to go through it, we can go through it. We're going to agonize the people for nothing. Sorry for the lack of courtesy. Maybe I should have taken the position sooner, but that is my position. Anyway, okay, item one. Let's do it.
All right.
Prosecuting Attorney's Office. And that's an overlap. This
Yes.
is a different situation.
Yep.
It is different.
Barry, do you want to speak to this, please?
I do. Thank you, Commissioners. This is an overlap request. We've got a victim service advocate retiring on September 2nd. I'm asking for the Commissioners to approve hiring effective Monday. We have somebody identified willing to start on Monday, and it would just be really nice to have that it's 3-week overlap between the retirement and the new hire so that there can be some training prior to the retirement on the 2nd of September. It looks like it'll be able to get paid out of budgeted savings, so it shouldn't have any impact on budget.
Okay, so basically you have a 2-week overlap.
Right.
May
About
3 weeks.
Yeah.
About,
okay.
yeah, 2 to 3 weeks, but for
Yeah.
FY23, it'll still be a savings because they are coming in at a step lower than the person retiring.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
motion.
correct.
I move that we approve the request for position overlap in the prosecuting attorney's office for the victim service advocate.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, motion's carried. Item number 2, request for adoption of a new grade, Civil Deputy Specialist, HR. Dorothy, do you want to talk to this, please?
Dorothy Cross for the record. This was requested some time ago, and we had so many requests that it had to wait until now for me to review it. It is combining the 2 current Civil Deputy Technician 1 and 2 into just one position, a Civil Deputy Specialist. It does grade out at a higher grade, and I would need to know, if you adopt it, what date that would be effective also.
Okay, so are you saying, because I want to make sure I get this straight, that we're consolidating 2 positions into one?
No.
You're not?
No, we have right now a Civil Deputy Technician 1 and a Civil Deputy Technician 2. We're going to have only one position called a Civil Deputy Specialist.
So we're doing away with 2 different job classifications and we're putting it into one.
Right.
So you will no longer, people will no longer be able to be a Civil Deputy Technician 1 or 2, they will be a specialist.
Just a specialist. Okay, I get it. Okay, what's the impact here? Is there a financial impact?
Yes, there would be.
Yeah. So that is actually not part of our thing today because we've got parity instead of the
There
changes.
was actually 2 items. So this one was just for that and determining when this would happen.
Right.
The next one is an issue of parity
Right.
with having currently 2 separate classifications.
Okay.
If we do A, we have to do B.
Well, yeah, because you're getting rid of those job descriptions. So
Okay, I'm trying to
Captain-
make heads or tails out of this now. What's our financial impact here?
okay, we don't have that in front of us.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have that. So.
Okay.
And we wouldn't necessarily need it yet if we're going to say, okay, this, I think it's a good attraction and retention tool to combine the 2 to make them a specialist. We don't have to make it effective until October 1st or September 25th, whenever that new thing is. And then we can find out what the pay is after that, or we can just say, come back to us after October 1st and ask for the,
Yeah, I would go with
that.
the latter. Come back
Okay.
later, okay? Let's do that, because at least then we know what we're dealing with.
okay.
Okay, item 3, KCSO request for parity adjustment, Civil Deputy Technician. Captain Deet, go right ahead, please.
Should I proceed with what you started with?
Probably not, but I'm gonna,
Well-
but I'm not into inhibiting people's freedom of speech, so go right ahead.
We recently onboarded a new hire, right around the end of June, 1st of July, at a pay grade 4, step 5. The person did come in with some experience, which is why they didn't start at the lowest step. And unbeknownst to me that there were 2 in a pay grade 5 at lower steps that are making less than this new person that we onboarded. And they're also training that person who's now making more than them.
So my question would be, for the lawyers in the room, Has this been reviewed for, now I've lost the word.
Oh, disparate treatment?
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So that would be something that I would want to know if this is going to cause disparate treatment. Disparate impact, sorry. Okay.
So, have you done that?
I have not done a formal. I can look at who these are, and knowing these people, yes, it would be considered a disparate impact.
But you know what? When we talk about disparate impact, what if the individual coming in is more experienced than the individual already here? Why would that be disparate? I don't know that that's the case.
It's not, if that's the case, it's not, you're right.
Right, but that's even more analysis that would need to be done.
See, what is happening here is that policy is now starting to conflict with reality. Excuse me, when I say reality, I mean our revenue limitations, our taxing authority. And ultimately, taxing authority and revenue income has to take precedence because we sometimes, and it's tough, how am I going to put this, managing that balance. And therein lies the problem. And I think, frankly, policy is going to have to yield because we can't just manufacture the money. And we've said repeatedly, and I think unanimously, that we're not going into fund balance for increases.
Right, and then this is also why at, I don't know what meeting it was, but that Sylvia and I were tasked to go through and tighten up our policies in hiring practices. And that was one of the things that we are looking at, is to say, before you hire this person, make sure that there's not a parity issue or compression issue, because if there is, you're going to have to deal with that. So, yeah, so this,
Commissioners,
yes,
this is Sylvia. In reference to the disparate impact, the only component I looked at was the similar positions of the civil section, and that's where we found that there were 2 out of the 5, I believe, or 6 that would need an adjustment if you do a parity adjustment for that reason only. But we did not look at it from a countywide perspective.
Right, but once again, Sylvia, that takes us back to the fact that we cannot increase the budget, okay? And that becomes the limiting factor for me. So I have to nix these because we simply cannot do this. And so we're putting our best foot forward. People are all going to get grade changes, and maybe some of this will solve itself as we go into the new fiscal year with the grade changes. But for now, I'm not ready to approve this.
Nor am I.
Okay.
So what I would ask for my benefit is to go back and to look at that specific thing, not just time and position, but actual skills and experience, and make sure that we don't have an actual setting ourselves up for a claim. That's all. So
One of them I speak to has been an employee in that office for 8 years. They started as a civil tech one, worked for several years, and then moved to civil tech 2 in their time and position, started over, as did their pay
sure.
on their grade. So, and then when we came out with the actual civilian pay matrix, they got lumped in at that, wherever they chose
Sure.
to put them versus that.
I just want more analysis to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for a lawsuit.
I'm fine with that.
So
I'm
that's
perfectly fine with it. And you know, that's a good point, Captain, because if we make a parity adjustment today, let's say, or effective in a couple of weeks, what happens then is when the movement occurs in fiscal 23, that's over and above the parity adjustment. So that's increasing the budget by that amount. And that happens in every case, and therein lies the problem. Because these increases are aggressive, we've got ourselves in a situation where we virtually have to freeze the increases that occur between now and then. Or we're increasing the budget and we can't do that. We're about to publish it.
Would it qualify as disparate treatment, though, if you're looking at county offices that are similar in nature and job descriptions, such as legal assistant, almost the same type of job, and they're pay grade 6, where these folks are pay grade 5, same requirements of everything else?
Yeah, no, because that's until we approve the specialist, you're at where you're at. So no, it doesn't
They're saying come back in October now.
well, that's kind of what I heard, is they would entertain the taking away the technician 1 and 2 and making them specialists. But
Yes.
we'll,
Let me,
Come back
no,
later.
go ahead, I'm sorry, Leslie.
Come back
it's
later.
okay. It's just, it's two separate issues, but they're related, so I just want to try to keep them separate. So right now, it sounds like come back after the start of the fiscal year. We'll kind of know where things shake out a little bit better. And then, but I still want an analysis done about if we are setting ourselves up for disparate treatment or impact or whatever. And then there's specific guidelines, and they have to fall within these guidelines, and HR is very well
And what's
versed at that.
interesting is, let's say in the worst case, you perform the analysis and find that we're exposed, we're vulnerable. Do we then go back and say, sorry, guys, not going to be 8 mil, 7.5?
Well,
know.
there's some contingency built in, and I don't know if Brandy wants to speak to that. I'm not sure where we're at with that contingency money right now.
I frankly think it's a waste of time to go all down the bunny holes. Are we going to approve this today or not?
Well,
And I don't think we are.
Today, we're not, no.
We're saying come back in October.
But that's okay. Go ahead, Brandy, answer the,
Regarding the budget, yes, so we're about to publish. We have a small amount of cushion budgeted for when we adopt the matrix, because all of the requests that were approved have to go up on the new matrix, and that's gonna be an additional $500,000. We have a small amount remaining, but it's running out quickly. And
Okay.
you'll find yourself in a position, if you make changes, they'll just have to be unfunded. Or hope that there's enough salary savings.
in fiscal '23.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so.
Thank you.
So I'm still the same. We'll examine the
Yep,
going
yep.
from 1 to 2 to a specialist in October to find out if we have funding to make that change happen. Bring back this parity issue right now, though, because we can't set ourselves up for something worse down the line. Does that make sense? So I think that's all for you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Item 4, you sure you want to do this, Ann? Okay.
Okay.
And I would have to say that this is actually not a parity adjustment. What this is when Ann had a bunch of openings and could not hire anybody with experience, we changed a lot of 3s and 4s down to 2s. So now she has people who are ready, and correct me if I'm wrong, ready to move back into those 3s and 4s position. Now, obviously, funding is still an issue, but we can address that as well. So,
Okay. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you. This meeting, my place on the agenda is in follow-up to a business meeting.
thank you.
Where we had a conversation, and I was directed by the board to bring this back in an HR meeting. And so that's what I've done. Commissioner Duncan is correct. Hiring attorneys kind of ebbs and flows over time. We had a time period where we had a lot of the ability to hire brand-new lawyers and get them trained up. And we did change a lot of job positions to AT2s, entry levels. I'm having the opposite problem right now. By the end of this month, I'll have 9 open attorney positions. Those are all AT2s. I have one person that I interviewed that doesn't want to proceed further until maybe in September if they're still interested. I don't have other applications I'm sitting on. I can't bring those brand new people in. I've got people that I would love to have do more work, more serious work. They're people that need to train people. I'd love to have them do felony work. We need the help in felonies, but I can't spare them out of misdemeanors. But what I can do is I can task them with more cases, more complex cases, with specialty courts and with training and supervising, and hope that we get some brand new lawyers. So the reason for this, I know that there was movement in the prosecutor's office to change the grades for case complexity. I'm a responsive body. I have to match that. And so that's in part the reason. particularly with my AT4 that I want to make an AT5. That individual that I want to move has a ton of experience. And when we're talking about AT5s, those are people that are going to handle violent alleged crime, kidnappings, aggravated batteries, some of vehicular manslaughter, things like that, and sex cases. Right now, I have 2 chief deputies, myself, and 3 lawyers to handle all of those heavier types of crimes that we have to defend. I need 1 more person. I think the prosecutor's office is going to have maybe 7 or 8 people to prosecute that level of offense, and I've got 3 people to divide that up with. So that's the purpose of the need to do the 4 to the 5, is so that I can have somebody take on the sex cases, the more violent crimes, to help us keep our caseloads where they're supposed to be. But the others are because they're handling a lot more work, more complex cases. They were made 2s when I had an overflow of 2s, and now I need to be able to promote them so that they're being paid for the kind of work that they're going to be asked to do going forward. And I heard and understand what you guys said. I respect both of you guys. This started before the budget was final, and I was told to come back. And I hear you, I understand you, but I also need you to know that I followed direction, and I'm here, and that's my piece. That's it.
You're here to plead your case.
I'm here because these things need to happen.
I get it.
Yeah, and I mean, when I came before the budget was final and I get told to come after, and now it's final and it's too late for me, that's hard to chew.
So I have a question. Are you still sticking with these steps, or are there lower steps that we might be able to afford?
If the lower steps mean that I can move the grade, then yeah. I looked at that, and I looked at the experience that each one of these people have, which is why they should be the steps that I'm asking for, or the grades that I'm asking to move them to. I looked to see where I have other people, what steps they are, to make sure I would not create compression with these movements, and I would not create compression. If I were allowed to do step, grade, and step, I would not have compression. I checked that. If the board would entertain doing this, but wants me to move everybody back a step for financial reasons, I would do that. I think the recognition for the work that's being performed and being asked of is very important.
And I'm not sure that we're not going to solve that with the increases that are scheduled for fiscal ’23.
So, which brings up a point. There was a time where Barry moved an AT2 to an AT3, and they did not move a step. So they did not get an increase at all. They just stayed where they were, even though their title changed. And then obviously after the first of the year, the increases will be reflected. So, I mean, that's one option, not a great option, because I voted against it, because I think if you're taking on more complex work, you probably should be paid more. But so
Sylvia,
Yeah.
we need some help here. And if you can't respond to this, just let me know. I think what's happening is what kind of increases are the defense attorneys looking at for fiscal '23? Can you give me an average? Can you give us an indication? Because I'm not sure that isn't going, at least from a monetary standpoint, going to potentially solve the problem.
Probably about a minimum of 8 to 12%. I'm guessing. If Nancy's there,
Yes,
or
Nancy is
Brandy,
here.
they have done a little more analysis on that. We could also verify that with her, but a minimum of 8%. But they're not getting no employee countywide for fiscal year 23 is getting any steps. It's market adjustments and the 6% COLA is what's been proposed and preliminarily budgeted.
Right.
and then I understand, I know this projection here says 22, but you were willing to wait to FY23 anyway to make the movement.
My request was in '23. I thought
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
'cause-
was what I understood the conversation prior to the finalization of budget to be.
Yeah,
And
so it
that's-
wouldn't
that's
happen
what I
now, it
wanted
would
to-
happen in fiscal year '23. So if you want her to come back after things shake out, we can do that as well, because that's not really going to hurt
Let's do that.
anything.
Let's do that.
And then maybe we can do a little bit more fine-tune analysis to try to get down as much as we can, so the fiscal impact is the lowest.
I can meet with Brandy and
And
Sylvia.
Brandy will have a better idea then as well. Yeah. Is that a fair statement? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we do that?
So my direction is to come back, should I do it at the end of September? Or do you want me to get into October before I do it?
Well, we will have finalized the budget
Right,
on
but,
August 31st.
but we won't know how much things are going to shake out. So
Oh, that's
when,
right,
when
there's
will that
yeah,
happen,
okay,
Brandy?
There's residual. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Brandy.
Well, salary savings are calculated, it's a projection of what you're spending, so it takes a while into the fiscal year to calculate that, but we'll be able to see how many, her budget specifically, she has so many open positions, she just has a ton of salary savings.
So,
So when the budget is adopted, we'll be able to see the funding in FY '23 that she has in open positions that could cover requests.
Yeah, and realistically, she's never going to fill 8 AT2 positions or 9 positions. You know, I mean, I wish I could say, yes, you are, next graduating class, all coming to work for you. Not going to happen. So the funding coverage will be there. It's just kicking the can down the road, because if some miracle happens and people start birthing lawyers, then, you know, we'll run into that when we do. But yeah, I know the funding will be here. I think it's appropriate, but probably not today, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Just based on what.
so Brandy, what's a reasonable time frame for you? What's your sense?
First Thursday in
I mean,
October?
beginning of October, the first.
October?
I'm sorry, the first HR meeting in October, which,
Fair enough.
In
Okay,
October
let's
would
do
be
that.
great.
I'll be back. Thank you.
Okay, Ann? Is
Thanks,
that-
Ann.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Brandy. All right, we've got one more item.
2 more
No, I'm
items.
sorry, 2 more items. Item number 5, HR request, timeline for utilizing fiscal '23 pay ranges for recruiting purposes. Dorothy or Sylvia, who's going to
Yeah.
handle this?
Sylvia, I'll go ahead and handle this. With the preliminary budget being published, I've received several inquiries about being able to post the proposed wages for recruiting purposes. So we were wanting to share the schedules and really mark them draft, preliminary, so that, and in the language for posting, we would indicate that this is tentative for 9/25. But there are a lot of inquiries that everyone feels that we've dealt with that would be helpful in their recruiting for positions. And I think of a particular instance would be for the detention officers.
Okay,
So I'm
so,
coming before the board to see if we can share this information with the countywide management and then allow them to start publishing with specific language the proposed wages for 23.
thoughts?
I say after there's been a vote by the board, so I think September 1st, I would be most comfortable
You
with.
mean after the 31st?
Yeah, after the public hearing.
Finalize the budget.
Okay.
Yep, so that would be my direction.
Bill?
I agree.
Sylvia, did you get that?
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right after we finalize the
Yeah.
budget on I think it's the 30th, actually. Okay?
Okay.
And
Okay. Then we will do that.
Then you can make it available and people can use it for their recruiting. Absolutely. We okay, guys?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to just clarify the date. August 31st is our budget hearing. So September 1st, we will know and be able to say, hey, as of October, these are increases. So
Okay.
No, it's the 30th.
it's the
Is it on a
31st.
Wednesday night
Yes.
this year? Oh,
Wednesday.
it's
yeah.
Wednesday. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was always a Tuesday. Fair enough. 31st. I got it.
So
Okay.
September 1st if all went well, they could publish the new salaries.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
You're-
you for that guidance.
Okay. Final item, we just added, item number 6, considering going into executive session. Motion, please.
I move we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B.
I second the motion.
Bill, excuse me.
Thanks,
Bill
everyone.
Brooks.
11:37, we're about to exit executive session. Motion, please.
I move that we exit executive session and no decisions were made and no direction needed.
No hits, no balls, no errors. I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye. And that takes care of that. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. 11:38, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sylvia, who just hung up.